Hello and welcome. We're here today to talk about one of the biggest challenges in any engineering organization: how to get your team's most valuable time back. We're going to look at a new kind of tool designed to do exactly that, to free up your developers to focus on what they do best: building great things.
So let me just start by asking this. Where is your engineering team's time really going? Is it being spent on the hard, innovative problems, or, if we're being honest, is it getting eaten up by 1,000 tiny, repetitive tasks that just completely shatter any chance of deep, focused work? Because that friction, that's the real enemy of productivity. The way we solve this is by reclaiming that lost time. We need to automate all that friction right out of the workflow. And we can do that by giving every single engineer their own powerful personal AI assistant, a platform called OpenClaw. Okay, so here's our plan. We'll kick things off by digging into that productivity challenge. Then I'll introduce you to OpenClaw and show you its real-world impact. We'll look at how it actually works, cover a secure deployment plan, and wrap up with a clear strategic recommendation. Right, so let's start with the productivity challenge itself. We're really talking about the hidden cost of all those little repetitive tasks. The things that have to get done but don't actually move the needle on innovation. They just create this constant drag on the whole team. And these are the usual suspects, right? I'm sure this looks familiar. Every single day, your best engineers are pulled away from coding to manually scan through hundreds of emails, jump out of their flow to handle routine pull requests, or answer the same questions over and over again. Each one is a small interruption, sure, but when you add them all up, it's a massive drain on productivity. And that, of course, brings us to the solution. This is where the OpenClaw Personal AI Assistant comes into play. It's a tool that's been designed from the ground up to tackle exactly these kinds of time sinks. So what is OpenClaw exactly? Well, at its core, it's an open source system that runs on top of the incredibly powerful Claude code model. The key is that it runs continuously for each developer, acting as their own dedicated, personal AI assistant that they can teach to automate their unique, repetitive tasks. But here's the most important part. This is not some rigid, one-size-fits-all tool. The real magic is in the personalization. OpenClaw learns and adapts to each user. The more an engineer teaches it about their specific workflow, the smarter and more effective it becomes at handling their tasks. Okay, it's one thing to talk about automation in the abstract, but let's actually quantify what this looks like day to day. We're going to do a simple before and after comparison on some common engineering workflows. Let's start with pull request reviews. The before picture's probably familiar. Lots of manual checks, constant context switching for the reviewer, which all leads to slower feedback for the developer. Now look at the after. With OpenClaw, the agent can be taught to automatically analyze the PR for routine issues and even draft suggested review comments. The turnaround time gets dramatically faster. And we see the exact same principle with another major productivity killer, email. Instead of manually wading through a flooded inbox, the agent automatically flags what's actually important, drafts replies to common questions, and gives the engineer a simple, concise briefing every morning. The risk of missing critical info goes way down, and focus time goes way up. So here's the bottom line. When you just add up the time saved from those two workflows alone, we're looking at a conservative estimate of over 3 hours saved per engineer every single week. That's 3 hours that go directly back into writing code, solving problems, and innovating.
But how does OpenClaw pull this off so reliably? The key isn't just the AI model underneath it all. It's about how we structure its knowledge. So let's peel back the curtain and look at the core mechanism that makes this all work. The whole system is built around this core concept of a skill. Think of a skill as a very clear, structured set of instructions, like a recipe, that you give to OpenClaw. This structure is what guarantees that the agent performs actions in a specific, predictable, and, most importantly, repeatable way. For example, a Gmail skill isn't just a vague command. It's built from simple, clear rules like these. Flag any email from the release team as high priority. Let me know about any calendar invites. Mark all those non-critical automated notifications as read. And finally, draft me a summary of all the priority stuff for my morning briefing. You're not just hoping it figures it out, you're telling it exactly what to do. And this right here is the absolute key to getting reliable performance. If you give an AI vague instructions, you're going to get unreliable results, period. By storing all the important processes inside these explicit skills, you create a system that you can actually count on, day in and day out. Now, I know what the big questions are. How do we actually implement this? And how do we make sure it's secure and scalable? Let's walk through the deployment blueprint right now. The strategy here is designed to be both straightforward and secure. You start by configuring the API access. Then you can actually instruct the agent to set itself up inside separate Docker containers, which is huge for isolation. You combine that with a strict least privilege access model, and you've got the foundation for a very secure and professional rollout. And this quote from the source material really sums it up perfectly. Using Docker containers means every single agent is running in its own little isolated sandbox. It only gets access to the specific things it needs to do its job and nothing more. That's absolutely critical for addressing security concerns right from the start. So, all of this brings us to our strategic recommendation. Adopting a tool like OpenClaw isn't just about getting some new software. It's a strategic move towards building a fundamentally more efficient, more focused engineering culture. So to quickly summarize the key takeaways for leadership, this directly boosts developer productivity and that all-important focus time. It reduces the cognitive load that comes from constantly switching tasks. It's built on a secure, containerized, and scalable architecture. And it's highly personalizable to fit the unique workflows of your teams. And that really leaves us with one final, crucial question to think about. When you give back several hours to every single one of your engineers every single week, what could your team build with that time? What new features, what new products, what innovations suddenly become possible?